Now, after a couple of disappointing game weeks in a row, I'm sitting in 132k overall. Putting those bad game weeks behind me, I'm determined to jump into the top 100k by the end of the season. And here is my team selection for game week 33. Starting off then, we're going to talk about my goalkeeper and defenders. I'm going to go for Petrovic in goal over Dubravka. I just think Chelsea have more chance of keeping a clean sheet against Everton than Newcastle do against Tottenham. So for that reason, I'm going to start Petrovic. In game week 34, however, I don't have a keeper with a double, but I do have Dubravka against Crystal Palace, which I don't think is too bad. And I'll be benching Petrovic next week. But for 33, I think it makes sense to start Petrovic, Gabriel, Bradley and Gusto. On my back three, I think Bradley, question marks as to whether he's going to play. I do expect Trent to be either back for game week 33 or 34. Although I'd raise the question, yes, Trent might be back, but could Bradley and Trent play in the same team? You know, we've seen how good Trent can be when playing in midfield. And Bradley has been so good in that right back spot for Liverpool. He seems to be super duper fit, doesn't really need rotating for tiredness or rest. And he's, I think, one of the top players in FPL still for points per game for every time he's turned out. I think every time I've seen him play, he could have had an attacking return in pretty much every game I've seen him. So I think Klopp would be hard-pressed to leave Bradley out of the team, whereas maybe Szoboszlai, for example, has been a little bit disappointing playing in midfield for Liverpool recently. Could Trent take that spot in the midfield three, leaving Bradley to still play at right back? I think that's a genuine possibility. Gusto, I think he's going to be back fit for game week 33. I don't see any issue with that. Pochettino, after the game week 32 game that he missed, just said he was ill and needed a rest. I think he'll be back for the Everton game. Chelsea fans saying that he's been a brilliant fullback for them this season. And you'd be a little bit worried, I guess, if Reece James reaches full fitness before the end of the season. But I genuinely think Gusto has been so good. He could even be moved to left back because I don't think Chilwell's been playing all that great for Chelsea. And then Gabriel's my other defender. I think literally the best defender in FPL in my opinion. Great from an attacking threat from set pieces. Could have scored in its last Premier League game against Brighton for sure. And yeah, Villa, they could well score, but I still like the chances of Arsenal to keep a clean sheet and also Gabriel to get some attacking returns. I've benched Udogie at the moment. If we get any news that Bradley's due a benching or Gusto still isn't quite there, then he comes in. But for right now, I think that's my starting four. Now, I mentioned this on my thoughts video, but could Ortega be the first choice Man City goalkeeper? And if he is, could he be a sensible transfer in for me? If we just go back to my defence at the moment, we've got Dubravka sitting there, 4.2 million. He doesn't double until game week 37, and obviously Man City do as well. And you've got to say Man City are better defensively than Newcastle, right? And Ortega's what, 3.8? Dubravka 4.2. So if I make that transfer, it saves me 0.4 million. And if you look at my other bench defender, Richards, I'm looking at, I brought him in specifically for game week 34. I thought 3.9 million. I only really have to play him in game week 34 when he's got a double where he could potentially score some points. However, he's injured and his expected return date is after game week 34. So could a sensible transfer be to downgrade Dubravka to Ortega, who's 3.8 million, and then maybe upgrade Richards elsewhere? So that's a plan. I don't think I can do it this week though, just because I'm still a little bit unsure as to whether Ortega is actually the first choice Man City goalkeeper. I mean, when you look at what's happened so far, Ortega has started the last two games for Man City while Ederson has been fit, and Ederson's just been on the bench. Ortega's usually reserved for domestic cups, like he plays the Carabao Cup and FA Cup. But he's played 2 consecutive games in the Premier League and Champions League when you'd normally expect Ederson to start. And in my opinion, having watched both goalkeepers for a little while, I think Ortega is actually a better shot stopper than Ederson is. And I think with Man City conceding the amount of goals they are at the moment, they probably want a better shot stopper in goal. And I think Ortega offers that. He's a 3.8 million Man City goalkeeper, right? And if he is confirmed to be their first choice, and I don't think that will ever be the case, maybe Pep, so the journalist asked Pep in a press conference if that's the case. I think for me, I wouldn't want to make the move just yet. I think if Ortega plays ahead of Ederson the next couple of fixtures, so Man City have got Luton in the Premier League in 33 and then Real Madrid in the second leg in the Champions League midweek, I'd say if Ortega plays both of those games, we've got a pretty safe suggestion that he is the first choice keeper. Now, I do feel like he's probably an absolute clanger away from being dropped for Ederson. But given the issues I have around my team looking at Game Week 34, obviously that's the next game week. Maybe not this week, but if Ortega starts the next two, I could potentially do Dubravka to Ortega. That allows me 0.4 million in the bank to upgrade Richards for someone else. Potentially Branthwaite. I'm looking at Branthwaite as the cheapest starting defender that doubles in 34. So just go back to that team. So yeah, as we see there, we could do Dubravka to Ortega. That saves me 0.4. And then I could upgrade Richards to Branthwaite. That could be an idea for transfers, but I just don't think I want to take the risk on Ortega this week. Obviously leaves the question, I've got 2 free transfers. Where do I actually use them? Onto the midfield, and again, I'm struggling to see a transfer that I can make here. Palmer, Salah, Son and Saka, I think, are the 4 best midfielders in the game right now. Saka's in decent goal-scoring form and obviously takes penalties where he can score in pretty much every game. Likewise, Son, Salah and Palmer, all 4 of these guys are penalty takers for their respective teams and are 4 of the top scoring midfielders in the game. Sarabia's on my bench. He can come in for Son in Game Week 34 when, of course, Son has a blank. Son doubles in 35 and 37, so I don't really see any real justification to sell him for any reason. I can just bench him for 34 and play Sarabia. So yeah, with these 5 in midfield, I don't think there's much more point talking about them. I mean, they're the 4 best midfielders in the game that I've got starting, and I've got Sarabia off the bench next week. I don't see any justification to do anything here. The one question would be, who do I captain? You can probably guess who the captaincy's on, seeing that Salah's got the vice-captain. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I guess, really, captaincy is the only decision to make on my midfield. Forward line here, and again, I'll be honest, I don't see a transfer here. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you suggest I do with this team. But I think the best play is literally just to sit on my hands because, yes, I've got 2 free transfers, but there's nothing I can do with 0 in the bank to majorly change up my team to improve it. And yeah, this front 3, Haaland, Darwin, Solanke. Darwin's been a bit frustrating in recent game weeks, but I can't afford Isak. And with him having a double game week looming in 34, I just don't see any reason to get rid of him. Haaland at the moment, the captaincy armband is on. I'll talk a little bit about captaincy in the next couple of slides. But again, that forward line I think is 3 of the best forwards you can have in the game really over the next few weeks. Maybe Darwin after double game week 34 could be a sell. Potentially find a way to wangle Nicholas Jackson in my team. Obviously got triple Chelsea, but that could be a play, or another player with future double game weeks could be what I do. But right now, with that double in 34 looming, I don't see any reason to change this front 3. Just a quick run through the captaincy and the expected points data. Now, first up, we got Draft Hound, who I like to use as one of my sources for expected points data. They've got Haaland leading the way, joint on top expected points, 7.9 with Cole Palmer. The Draft Hound algorithm absolutely loves Cole Palmer. But I just think Haaland, Luton at home, Luton are absolutely terrible defensively, right? They concede multiple goals in pretty much every game they play. And I'm pretty sure the last time Haaland played Luton, he scored 5 goals. And now, that was away, I believe, at Kenilworth Road. And now he's got them at the Etihad. I mean, Haaland is definitely stronger at the Etihad than he is away from home. So, I mean, it's written in the stars for him to get a haul, I would like to think. Although, that probably suggests he's going to blank. But I think he'll do well against Luton. I guess the only question is, I do think personally that Haaland will play right, but given they've got Real Madrid Champions League midweek, could it be a day where we see Erling Haaland potentially rested? I think if he is rested, the chances of him being rested, does that mean you could potentially captain someone else? I think that's the only challenge really, isn't it? Do you think that Haaland could be rested? My eyes will certainly be peeled on X, FPL Main Road and FPL Tony are 2 accounts you can check out yourself. They have insider Man City news. And basically, they'll have any info before the deadline if Haaland's in or out of the team. But for me, I think I'm just on Erling Haaland. I think just with how important the league is to Man City at the moment and how much they need to win pretty much all their games to stand a chance, I think he's probably going to play against Luton. I guess the one thing you can say about Palmer and Salah is that both of them are definitely nailed on to start, and they're not too far away in terms of expected points. Well, at least according to Draft Hound. So, yeah, based on that, I think Haaland is the decision. We'll just have a quick look at another source, FPL Review. That's obviously a very popular source for expected points data and points algorithms, etc. They also have Haaland dominating the expected points. 79 expected minutes for him. That's what they put into the tool. The good thing about FPL Review is you can input your own expected minutes and that will produce an expected points figure for each of these players. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've said 79 minutes for Haaland. I mean, it's pretty much give or take, I'd say, how many minutes he gets. Although I do think, just with how important that game is, he probably starts, maybe plays 60 minutes would be my view. But even then, I think he'll do quite well. So yeah, well, FPL review, we've got Haaland top, Salah second. Interestingly, we see Tony in third place, who you'd normally expect to be a 90-minute nailed starter for Brentford, but of course missed the game in Game Week 32. Perhaps all the stuff he's been saying about joining top teams and slagging off Brentford basically in press conferences, the manager's finally decided to leave him out, but he's one of the top players. I also don't mind Mbumo as well if you want a one-week punt. You see Foden, Palmer, Saka and De Bruyne as the final four there of the top players. But you can see the gulf between Haaland and Palmer in FPL review is, what, 2 expected points, which is quite a bit different to draft time. So it's just interesting to compare those two forms of data. I think right now my captaincy is going to be on Haaland, looking at both of these sources. If you get any intel to suggest that he's, you know, not fully match fit or not likely to start, then that might change to someone like Salah or Palmer. I think obviously those are the 3 outstanding captaincy shouts, right? But even, to be fair, Son against Newcastle, can't really complain about that one either. So yeah, I think I'm on Haaland at the moment unless we get any info. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that, and also I hope you found it useful, because I've not had the best couple of weeks in FPL, right? But I think it's important to document whether you're doing well or not, because even the top players in the game sometimes don't have a good game week and have, you know, the occasional red arrow or multiple red arrows in a row like I've just experienced here. And I think it's really important to keep level-headed and just focus on the next week, and that's what I'm trying to do with this video. So hopefully you can see my thought process with some of those transfers, although ultimately I don't think I'm making one this week. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments if you think I should actually do anything with my team. Ultimately, I think it might be the first time this season that I've burned a transfer, unless I go for Ortega, but I still think that's a bit of a risk. It's quite nice that he's got 2 fixtures before the Game Week 34 deadline where we get a chance basically to see if he is actually first choice. So I'll wait for those games to play out, I think, before making a decision. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating, and you can subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel, which should be just here if you want to see more content from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.